Welcome back to the BizBlend podcast, listeners, where real business meets real talk. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are diving straight into a topic every entrepreneur needs to master. Discover patterns that fuel scalable growth, and more importantly, that allow you to control your revenue across multiple business cycles. But this isn't theory, listeners. Today's guest doesn't just talk about business growth, he lives it. Listeners, meet my guest, Rion Westfall. 2 months before his third child was born, Rion stepped into a VP role with nothing but four cold leads and a VP's parting words. Good luck, you are not going to survive. But not only did Rion survive, he tripled the company's size in under 2 years, went on to start 9 companies, worked across 15 countries, and created a repeatable system that helps SMBs uncover patterns and revenue opportunities with precision. So today on BizBlend, we'll be unpacking how his Own Your Revenue framework empowers founders to scale smarter, avoid chaos, and build long-term control over their businesses. So with that, Ryan, welcome to the show, and it's really, really an honor to have you here with us.
Absolutely, Sana. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
That's wonderful, and some insane numbers, Ryan. Now, with that, let's begin with how most founders are um, taught, or it's like the culture to hustle harder, sell more, and quote unquote figure it out as they go. But you advocate for pattern discovery to drive growth. So, could you break down what you mean by that and why founders often overlook these patterns?
Absolutely. So, one thing to keep in mind is if you're a founder, usually it's because of one of two reasons. One, you're really good at a certain task, you have a skill in whatever field that you have, and because it's more superior, you've said, "Hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to start this company because I'm really good at doing this service or providing this product, or maybe I've got this great idea." Whatever the case is, that's one option. The second option is you've got money and you're just investing and you're kind of the ownership side of an investment into either a merge and acquisition or something of that sort. So as you talk about patterns, understanding the situation that you brought up, the story that you mentioned, that situation happened to me. Yes, I was in my late 20s and I had this opportunity to go from I guess kind of a senior manager to a VP level to one of three VPs within an international company, and this role was over business development. But when you're when the whole world is your playing field, it's not just one market. It's every country, it's every climate, it's every culture, and this company played internationally and had been in business for 30 years. And so here they had all these people, and the outgoing VP, that's exactly what he said. He handed me that note and he says, "Good luck, you're not going to survive." And I just thought, oh my, what have I gotten myself into? And so one of the things I realized real quick is I've got to be very time. Time is the kryptonite for small and medium-sized businesses. Like, we're always racing a clock, a deadline, trying to get projects in, trying to get money in because we got to get money out to our employees and so this situation was really no different. I had to come up with a very fast way to see where this company was going to go and how it was actually going to survive. And so when I talk about pattern discovery, this was kind of the birth for me
Okay.
in doing that because part of my role as that VP of business development, as you mentioned, I've worked in 15 different countries. Well, this is part of that job that took me to all these different locations. And as I would go into these locations, part of my responsibility was to go in cold turkey. And so when I say cold turkey, meaning we had a correspondence with maybe someone from HQ, something of that nature, where we said, hey, this site, this facility, it might be a $40 million facility. It might be we had one that was a $6 billion facility. So whether it ranges from 30, 40, 50 people or even the, thousands of people. So I had to go in and I had the privilege and responsibility to do audits or evaluations on these facilities. Sometimes they'd be 3 weeks, sometimes they'd be, 5 weeks, 3 days. It just depended on the size and the scope. But that's where I started recognizing patterns. So as I went around different countries, different cultures, different skill levels and types of leadership, as well as the employees and everything like that, that's where I really started to recognize patterns and the issues we found at one location and the opportunities we found at another location. And location after location after location, we had these patterns. They just kept coming about over and over and over and over again. So when I talk about patterns, that's my basis for patterns is I would see these over and over and over. And so that's where, as you mentioned, that was the birth of what I now teach as the own your revenue process, is to go into virtually any organization and to seek out these patterns.
That's quite comprehensive and at a much deeper level analysis, Ryan. And I mean, I have seen this firsthand, especially um, uh, and my support to all of them, and I see this firsthand with our platform as well. That early stage founders, they are addicted to the chase. They confuse, or maybe they kind of have this addiction of activity with progress. Ryan, if we try to understand the root causes here of these patterns, I mean, is this pattern blindness? Is this often rooted in the psychology of the founder, or it is the flawed business modeling?
That's a great way to put that question, Sana. I would say both. There's inherently, again, as founders, usually, and I'm no different. I looked when I started my first company 13 years ago. It's because I had a certain skill set, and I said, well, for money reasons, it worked better if I was a contract as opposed to a full-time employee. So that was the birth of my very first company, and that led me into this world of my own entrepreneurship. And so as we see that, we recognize, hey, well, great, I have the skill set and I can do this. I know I can fulfill the work, but now I've got to learn a whole subset of other things. I've got legal, I've got tax, I've got administration, I've got AP, AR, I've got employees, I've got benefits. All the stuff that comes with ownership. Those are often, you don't realize the magnitude of that effect until after you're actually in it. And so to answer your question, I think that's one step, is where we're really, really good at what we do and the reason we started the company. There's just so much more that goes into a full-fledged business that's going to have employees, that's going to produce products or provide services. So I think that's, absolutely. I think that's one aspect of it. So when you talk about blindness, I mean, who teaches you that, right? I mean, as an owner, if you're going to start a company, or if you have started a company, maybe you're a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. I was on a podcast here yesterday, and we were talking about how right now the current failure rate to reach the 5 year mark, the current failure rate for SMBs is 96%. So that means only 4% actually survive into that 5th year or more. And, when you think about that, like, hey, would I accept a 96% failure rate anywhere? Would I accept it of my kids and their grades and their schools? I mean, that's huge. So how do you survive and thrive during those first 5 years? And I think to your point, I don't know that it's intentional blindness, but because we've never done it, it's just something that we're not looking for. I can guarantee when I went on my first audit and evaluation, I did not see things because I didn't know how to look for certain things. Now, over and over and over again, by the time I got to my 20th, my 50th, my 100th site visit where I'm going on site, I learned that there were certain things that I kind of was able to get through the fluff and get right to the heart of issues really fast because I had had that experience doing it over and over and over to know what to look for, to know how to get in and find those patterns. So I don't think it's blindness per se by intentionality. It's just blindness because of the situation. We haven't been taught or trained or know how to actually find and view and see those things.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh, 96%. That is really staggering. It's worrisome, but still, there is a silver lining to the cloud. Great. Ryan, so, um, and this is uh, call it selfishness, but a very, very important question for me as well, and the team we have. So, if a founder listening right now wanted to start discovering these patterns inside their own business, where should they begin? I mean, what signals or data points should they look for the first?
Yeah, the first place that I always start is internal alignment. You have a founder, you have an owner, you have a leadership team, depending on the size of your business. One could be wearing many hats, but oftentimes the start of the company and its existence exists around, again, a certain skill set, a certain opportunity that was provided that the entrepreneur took advantage of. So that's great. You started your company, got your first couple of clients, maybe your first year into it, second year you're kind of growing, but then you've started seeing turnover. You've started seeing all of these things that come with business ownership. The place that I start is really in I have a phrase, clarity is power. And there's certain alignment aspects, for example, your niche. What problem do you solve that no one else does? I mean, this is an easy question to answer. I can almost always, every time I ask that question, I can get an answer from a business owner, from a business leader. But it's a hard question to give a good answer to. And so as you think about this, yeah, I'll give bullet points. Hey, we do this and we do this and we provide this and we serve this. But really to be concise in what you do, to be very, very clear in the niche, the problem that you solve that no one else does, that is absolutely a critical starting point. Another place that I look is also in the values of the company. And I call them pole stars, and that's taken from astronomy, where we have stars in the sky and we travel to stars. I've heard the term North Star, but pole stars in general, wherever they are, they're constant. So similarly, business owners, entrepreneurs have founding characteristics. They have qualities within them. And any company that finds out of alignment, out of sync with the owner's characteristics and qualities, that company is almost guaranteed to fail at some point in time. You're going to have employees that come on that are of a different mindset. The company is going to go different directions. If those values are not clear, if they're not stated, if they're not found in the business, if I was an employee and I got hired into your organization, do I easily find and feel and see those values. So
Mm.
alignment is a huge aspect on where to start, and kind of the third main stepping stone, which is really where things start to take off. I've got a few templates actually for any of the listeners out there, but I call it the customer journey, the customer roadmap, CR. And most every business that I've been into, and I ask them, hey, we're going to develop this. And well, what is the customer roadmap? Well, there's 6 different spots that every single customer will arrive at as they come through your company. And there's multiple questions, those 6 different questions that I ask as we go through this. Almost every time I go through this with owners and with founders and with leaders, we find gaps, we find holes. And using the terminology roadmap, it's, they're the potholes, they're the dirt roads, they're the detours, they're the construction sites, where their customers get lost or where they get detoured and they leave and they never come back. And so it's a very poignant and powerful exercise that I do with every single one of my clients. And as we do this, again, that's where we really start to see the patterns internally, and uh, you can't hide from it, right? The way that I've set it up and the way that I've built it, and as we go through it, there's nothing to hide from. And what it does is it forces clarity. It forces responses to given setups and structures of your business that have to be addressed, that are always either one, you're missing out on opportunities, or two, you're letting issues become, much bigger than they are, where we can solve those issues. So in order to find, to answer your question, in order to find those patterns, there's a certain starting block that we have to start at before we ever start talking about numbers and money and revenue and all that other kind of stuff. There's foundational principles that have to be addressed first.
That is absolutely fundamental. It's basically, um, you have the internal stakeholders, the people, the leadership, the values, the culture in the first 5 years, the projection of what the founder is into the company's essence and soul. And then on the other hand, with the customer's journey, it's about the external stakeholders as well. So that's really, really basic, very fundamental. And I believe it's industry agnostic. It's country agnostic. It is the basic, globally.
I would agree 100% with that. I mean, I birthed this process literally. As I mentioned, I would go in cold turkey to these industrial production facilities, and we'd have whiteboards. You can imagine it. I mean, we just had a whole room full of whiteboards, and we had black markers and blue markers and red markers and green markers, and we had sticky notes all over the place. So that's really where this came from, where it was birthed out of. And as I've migrated to a quote digital platform to make it easier and more accessible, to where I don't physically have to go into a company, but I can visit online just like what we're doing. We can have a Zoom call and we can have all this stuff. I've got these digital whiteboards and I've now prepared, and all these templates and things like that that actually help and facilitate. I had one gentleman, he's actually in the financial industry, and he's starting his second agency. He's about 2 years into it. He's been 17 years in the business. And as we were going through this information, he just stopped and paused, and I was asking him, I said, "What are you thinking?" He said, "Ryan," he said, "this would take me probably 12 months to figure it out, and even if then I would figure it out." He says, "Your process is guiding me through things that I probably wouldn't naturally think about." Like, I have to have somebody ask me these questions to where I can think about it, to where I can gain that clarity. One of the beauties after this is, the phrase I use for this program is own your revenue. Your revenue comes in many forms, and it's your resource, it's your people, it's your culture. Obviously, it's your inventory, it's your equipment, it's the money in the bank and the AP and the AR, all of those things. But until you can actually put your arms around all of that collective, I mean, just think about it. How do you bring in knowledge and skill sets and grouping all of those things together? How do you bring in how do you measure your leadership skills along with your inventory, along with your people skills, along with your processes and your the strategies of the business and the money side and the credit and the loans and the debts and APs and AR, just all HR aspects. How do you bring all of that together cohesively and be able to look at it from an opportunistic point as well as from an, hey, here's our issues, let's address them and let's solve them to where they're no longer chaotic pain points in our business. And so that's really, I designed the program completely for that. Once we go from this customer journey and we get those things, I've got I've got three different phases of that we go through, but then I've got another program, I call it PEPSLIM. It's PEPSLIM, and there's 7 different aspects of it that every company fits. Your company, any company in any industry fits inside of these: the people, the equipment, the processes, the strategy, the leadership, the inventory, the money. Every company fits inside these. And as we start to compartmentalize the opportunities and the issues and the things associated with your business around this format, clarity starts coming into every business I've ever worked for. And what would usually, again, and in the words of Brian, hey, what would take me a year to figure out certain aspects, he says, I'm figuring out in literally hours. And so what we're doing is we're empowering every SMB to say, hey, let's take this process, let's walk through it. It's kind of a diagnostic slash reparative tool that allows and permits you the ability to own or gain control of all those resources, all of those revenue aspects of any business.
Hmm. That's oh wow. And
Unique acronym, I know.
that's easy to remember. It's easy to remember. It's fundamental. It's something that I absolutely swear by, um, especially in the beginning. Phases or the years of building a business or a company or a legacy. These are the most fundamental blocks to work on. But in the interest of time, Ryan, I mean, I wish I could go on and on this, but in the interest of time, if our listeners they would like to connect with you, explore more about the framework, about PepSlim, and the wonderful wisdom you're providing, what will be the best way?
Absolutely. As part of this, I know we'll have a couple of links. I'll have one link. I offer a a free whiteboard. So I'll put that link in there. The best place to reach me is on LinkedIn. That's my most active social media platform. Is on LinkedIn. We'll have my contacts and my email and that stuff here on your show. But 537BD .com. So that's the name of the company is 537 BD Business Development. We're developing your business. That's the website. But LinkedIn is the best place to get a hold of me. You can message me. You'll find my emails and my contacts, even the features and the opportunities. All of that's on my profile link, so people can subscribe. They can follow. They can have access to some of the information that's there.
Wonderful. Is there a story behind 537?
There is a certain story. It started out because I couldn't find a name that has a domain, so that actually fit and worked, and after you go about 100 different tries, you realize, "Okay, I gotta come up with something that truly alright, what are we gonna do?" And so those prime numbers have a meaning for me and actually my family and my brothers, and we're sport athletes, and so those were me and my 2 brothers, those were our sport numbers playing growing up, so that's kinda where that, started come from.
That's wonderful, Ryan. That's wonderful. Wonderful. I'll make sure to mention all the links in the show notes for all of our listeners. And Ryan, this was certainly um, such a conversation packed with both strategy, but more about the hard earned wisdom from your experiences. And something that stands out to me is your ability to, simplify complexity without losing depth. And most importantly, showing helping founders how to take action, not just take notes. So, thank you so much. This has been such a helpful conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, time is our kryptonite, and for those of you business owners, you know that, and you're probably feeling the pressure from it, and so that's what this is largely built for, is to help expedite and reduce the time in figuring a lot of those things out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To all the listeners out there, if you are serious about scaling smarter and owning your revenue instead of being owned by your business, go check out Ryan's work. Connect with him on LinkedIn. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And stay tuned for his upcoming book as well. Until next time, this is BizBlend, where strategy meets real world execution. Also, don't forget to subscribe, share, and blend smarter. Thank you.